Hello everybody, hope you're well. Just jumping on before the main feature today to do a very quick message to you all. First of all, we hit 3,000 subs. Woohoo! Yeah! Which is rather exciting. So many thanks for that, and thanks for watching the videos. But the main reason I'm jumping on is because basically I ummed and ahed about whether to post this video in the first place. I did the entire thing quite soon after the whole thing that you're about to see transpired, and I was kind of looked back and I was like, was I measured? Was I fair? And I've watched it back, and yeah, I think I was pretty fair, and I think it's a story that's worth telling. And so, without further ado, let's throw back to Matt from the past, and he'll tell you more about it. See you in a bit. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and good night. Welcome back to the channel. A bit of a different video for you today. What have we got in the box, everybody? This is obviously my first unboxing video. They do make it look quite easy. They're the professional unboxers. But I guess if you are unboxing for a living, you'd probably get quite good at it. Alright, here we go. Packing slip, Andertons. Extra strings, very nice of them. Cheers. Oh, baby! Ladies and gentlemen, a mono gig bag. It's not just a gig bag. This is the part of the fun, isn't it? You have to, you come with me on the journey. Wrestle. The wrestle.
On this camera, it's just like a box moving up and down. I can't even see it.
Okay, right. Now, fortunately, mono gig bags are very durable, which means that if I drop it, hopefully the bag and the contents will be fine. There we go. Oh, look at that. Right, so we've got a mono gig bag, which I'm actually delighted about that. Because these bags are outrageously expensive. Let's sip it. Oh, look at that. Just had a little glimpse of it. How do you get the thing open? Oh, I don't know. Is it just like that?
Ooh, look at the colour of it.
Look at that. You'll notice that I'm a little bit more subdued than usual. That's for two reasons. One, it's incredibly grey outside. And the other thing is that this should have been a way. Look at my new guitar video, which, do you know what? I'm all for it. I like to see what people buy, and I'm sure you'd have enjoyed it. But I don't own the Harmony Silhouette anymore. Sharp intake of breath. I had it for a week. What a week it was. Every cloud, as they say. And Lord knows there's a lot of them in Wolverhampton. Has a silver lining. And the silver lining is that, I've rediscovered one of my old favourite guitars, which is this guy. We got a dog. A great guitar, more on that later. And, it does, of course, tie into the whole rig, the GX10, because today is the first day of the live work that I'm going to be doing this year, and I'm driving later on to Northampton, Rock City, for the first show of 2025, which I am very excited about, and I'm sure later my energy levels will pick up, and it will be a great show. Let's roll the clock back. Basically, I saw this guitar, the Harmony Silhouette. It's got to be 2 years ago, and it was love at first sight. That's the first thing to say about it. I've been looking for an offset. I kind of have offsets. The Wilshire is a sort of offset, but not really. I've been really considering pulling the trigger on a Jag. I've tried Jazzmasters. I like them, but I don't want one. And I've said before on the channel, I don't buy a lot of gear. And the reason for that is that mainly I always consider my purchases and research the purchases before I buy them. And I thought I'd researched this purchase, and I mean, if looking at something on the internet for 12 months or more isn't researching, then I don't know what it is. But I think the lesson here, and I always come back to it, and I tell my students, you've got to try a guitar in person. When they're going to buy guitars, you've got to go and try a guitar in person. And I didn't do that. I've bought guitars online before. You know, that is the reality, isn't it? For many of us. Buying online without seeing it is the way of the world. But I've learned my lesson. Anyway, I see the Harmony Silhouette. I love it. There's one in Burgundy. I wanted it with a Bigsby because basically everything that I do needs a trem. And I don't own a Bigsby, unbelievably. I had a Bigsby on a Gretsch for a while that somebody lent me. Loved it. So again, that was part of the thing, really. I was looking for an offset with a Bigsby. So that's the first two conditions. And then you're thinking, well, this guitar, this is like the unicorn. It doesn't exist. I also wanted mini humbuckers. So go and have a look at the Harmony Silhouette, offset, Bigsby, mini humbuckers. The final condition, all of my guitars are red. Something you don't know about me. Literally 90% of my guitars are red. That is just something that I like, the colour red. Apart from the odd sunburst, that's the only other colour I'm allowed, that I allow myself. The red guitar is the way for me. That's like some people like, yellow Lamborghinis or red Ferraris. That's just the thing. Anyway, I see this Burgundy Harmony Silhouette Bigsby, and I watch it, and it's in a browser and it's open on my iPhone, and I'm like, man, 1,600 quid I think it is. Do I do it? That'd be literally one of the most expensive. I think the most expensive guitar I've ever bought. I try and hunt for good deals on guitars. Buy cheaper guitars and do them up. It would have been a big purchase. I put it off. I watched it. There was 2 in the UK. And then January 2025 swings around and a sale happens and a new colour. And the colour, it was a super cool colour. I doubt I'm ever going to see. Well, who knows? But I don't feel like I'm going to come across one like this again. Faded Fiesta Red was the colour of it. Beautiful colour. So it was like red enough that I was going to go for it. And it was the same guitar. Bigsby, mini humbuckers, offset, red enough. And it was 300, 400 quid cheaper. So there I am, sat there. It's on Andertons. And bosh, buy it. I'm delighted, obviously. Totally delighted. And the guitar arrived quick. Real quick. And literally two days later, maybe it can't have been the next day. It was quick. And you can see the excitement in the unboxing video. Delighted. It looked amazing. If I was just going to hang that thing on the wall, well, I still have it. And that is where the fun began. The longest week of my life. Because part of the psychology of purchasing something that is really expensive, to me that's really expensive. To spend over £1,000 on myself on one item is, unheard of. The psychology of that means that, and I've rationalised this, you're looking for it to be great. You want it to be great. And you almost start excusing the faults. And, oh my God, were there faults? Now, this is not a video. I'm not going to bag on anyone. I'm not going to bag on the people involved. It's just my honest experience. And I will say from the off that where I bought it from, Andertons,
they've had the guitar back. Nothing to say about the sales and returns service at all there. The two chaps that I spoke to were highly capable and lovely men. And, no complaints there at all. So the guitar's gone back, no questions asked, full refund. But let's talk about why it went back, and let's talk about the condition it arrived in. So I spent a week trying to get this thing to play, basically. The first thing was that there's no footage of this. You're just going to have to believe me. But would I have gone to this effort? Such was the intensity of my engagement with this guitar that I didn't pick up the camera to film any of this. I was just working on the thing, looking at it, trying to figure out, this is a £1,000 guitar, and it plays like a 200 quid, like Argos guitar. Honestly, there's sort of stag guitars that I play at school that set up better than this Harmony Silhouette, and that's where it starts. The first thing you do when you get a new guitar off the internet is that you have to set it up. You should expect to set that guitar up, because it's either been in a warehouse or it's been on a wall. And Andertons were great. They sent me a fresh set of strings, correct gauge. So the first thing that I did, get the old strings off, clean it up a bit, and set it up. And what constitutes like reasonable setup with a new guitar? Well, I think the following. I think possibly a truss rod adjustment. I think action. So truss rod adjustment down here on this guitar. On the Silhouette, it was up here. Action. So bridge, intonation, pickup height. Things you shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't have to repair anything. You shouldn't have to file frets. You shouldn't have to fix electronics. My personal opinion. And to begin with, for the first 24 hours, it looked like it was going to be fine. It needed a setup. It needed a turn of the truss rod. That was where the first red flag occurred. So this is obviously, you get the truss rod cover off on the Silhouette, and there was paint all over, like really sloppy kind of paint all over the top of the truss rod, which meant that actually getting the Allen key in there was, it was not what you'd expect, really. It was like Allen key in, paint crumbles, is it in, is it not? Okay, it's in. And every time you sort of move the truss rod, the paint was crumbling off the top of the truss rod and sort of falling into that cavity. So that was the first thing. I was like, oh, that's a bit, they could have just gaffer taped up the cavity, right? Anyway, do the truss rod adjustment. Tiny little turn was all that was needed to essentially straighten the neck up. And after that, you start looking at it. Now, actually, the condition of the guitar aesthetically was beautiful. As I said, if you're hanging it on the wall, it would have looked great in here, is all I'll say. And maybe there are, that's something I've wrestled with, really. Maybe there is like a significant percentage of the new guitar market who buy guitars just to hang on the wall. And maybe they wouldn't have even, those sort of people wouldn't have even noticed it. I'd love to know, like, if there's anyone in the sales game, like, that knows that. I don't know how they would, but, like, do many guitars just end up on walls? I think the phrase is blues lawyer, isn't it? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, back to the setup. So that's a bit weird. Then, basically, I get down to the bridge, and this is where the real problem starts. It's got a Bigsby. That basically didn't work. That's all. It was clicking, so there was no movement in the. Your normal. Here we go. I'll show you what I would expect from a trem. Here we go. That's a Strat floated trem. I've got a tremor tone down there. You could expect something similar from that. You'd expect a Bigsby to be, you know, in that ballpark, like maybe a bit less, a bit more subtle than that, perhaps. But I've played Bigsbys that dive bomb, you know, and stay in tune, and so that really didn't work. So I had to set that up. And that, again, that's fine. Like that to me, that comes under expected setup. So took all the strings off, tightened the Bigsby up. That worked, and basically had to shim the Bigsby because the height was such that it was basically, you know, it was like it was about an inch clearance of the guitar, so there was no movement. So shimmed it, did the old, you know, 10-cent euro coin into the pocket and the washer on the top, and that was fine. So that, you know, then it was like about where the Strat trem would be. And that was sort of working. It wasn't the greatest Bigsby in the world, but like I know that, for example, my either of the people who work on my guitars or have done in the past would have been able to improve that for me. But that was fine for now. And then we get to the bridge. Now, with Bigsby's, it's a nightmare to intonate, right? Because you've got the Bigsby. You need a right angle screwdriver. Amazingly, given what I'm about to tell you, the guitar intonated perfectly. So, like, intonation is the last thing you do. But, like, all the while, this was the strangest thing about this instrument, is that the whole time, right, no matter where the strings were action-wise or the truss rod, it intonated perfectly. It was like freakishly accurate intonation, no matter what I did to the guitar to kind of try and get it into a playable condition. But the key here, right, this is the key. And the thing that basically resulted in me calling Andertons and saying, look, man, like, this is not, it's not working, you know, it doesn't actually work as a guitar. The bridge saddles, now guitarists know what these are, but if you don't know what they are, there's like little poles here that you screw up or down to get the height of the strings on the neck. 2 of the 6 string saddles didn't work, in the sense that you tighten them, set them up to the correct height. So it was truss rod, string height, cool. Check the intonation, amazing, the intonation works. And then play. And I did all that on the first day, and it worked perfectly for about 10 minutes. Play, loving it, having a great day. And it worked perfectly for about 10 minutes. And literally within 10 minutes of playing, so you can imagine that's maybe 3 songs, the action had reset, in the sense that these 2 saddles were essentially on the floor. All of the adjustments I'd made were careful adjustments, I might add. You know, you've got to do this stuff carefully. Were gone. So no matter where you set these saddles to, they gradually went down to the height where they wanted to go. And of course that meant that, you know, basically the strings involved were buzzing. Now there was a lot of string buzz. The further I got down the road with this stuff, the more impossible it became to like balance the faults to get it working. So if I got the action high enough so there was no string buzz, you know, not only have you got a monstrously high action, but also, you know, the tension would be all, you know, you couldn't bend the strings. If you got the action to a playable level, the neck alignment felt wrong. All of which, wrestle, 2 or 3 days. And you know, you do this because you want your expensive purchase. I'm sure we've all been there. You purchase something and you want it to be great. There you go. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, the Harmony silhouette in Faded Fiesta Red. with a Bigsby, which is rather cool, isn't it? Pretty damn cool. And it wasn't. So wrestling for 2, 3, 4 days like this, I'd set it up again, reset it. Oh, maybe I missed that. Okay, cool. And I'm looking at like I'm googling how to stop bridge saddles slipping down. I'm like considering, after seeing on like the gearpage.net forum or something, I'm considering asking Lou for some nail varnish to glue the things in place on a £1,000 guitar. I never did. I was like, that. I'm not gluing the things in place. Anyway, carry on. 3 or 4 days later, I get to the realisation that actually, oh yeah, I forgot the other thing. Any time that the action wasn't jacked up to, like pedal steel high, anytime you bent, you couldn't bend it that far. You couldn't get the E string above the 12th fret, anywhere near that level. Anytime you bent above the 12th fret, the E string popped out of the saddle. So, what do I mean by that? Well, there's like a little slot on the roller bridge on the silhouette, and it just popped out of the saddle. So you could imagine, right, you're playing, I don't bend a lot, but like there's, maybe 2 or 3 bends in the set that would require that. Ping! Reset the string mid-song, which of course means it's out of tune. And anytime that happened, the bridge suddenly collapsed. So it would gradually collapse, but anytime the string popped out of the saddle, one side would go. So that's the bridge taken care of. All of this led me on to the fact that actually what this guitar needed was a complete neck reset. And at some point, I started looking at shims. And if you're looking at shims on a new guitar, I think it's fair to say that, along with all those other problems, some people, would say, yeah, no, shimming a new guitar is like maybe part and parcel. I think that's a step too far for a £1,000 guitar. I don't think you should be having to shim a neck the day you get it. Personally, so let's move on to the neck. None of my guitars, right, have got a space either side of the neck here. Even the cheap guitars, the Wilshires are £230, they're through, neck through. But like all of the bolt-on necks are tight in the pocket there. I think that's quite important. Correct me if I'm wrong. You could get a plectrum, not one of these. You could get like a normal 88mm Jim Dunlop in there, either side. That's mental. I said that to the guy at Andertons. This was, I think, the only thing we disagreed on, actually. He seemed to suggest that actually necks not fitting in the neck pocket is quite common. I mean, you have one job, neck pocket sanders, builders. Make the neck fit in the neck pocket. So that was something I noticed after about 2 or 3 days. The neck literally was not touching the body. I think that has an impact on resonance. I don't know if that's like one of these like tone word type things. But what I will say about that is like, if you're buying an electric guitar, a very good test is to play it acoustically. And, you get a sense of the resonance of the instrument. And when you buy a guitar in a shop, if you're trying, say, 3 or 4, the Red Telecaster is a good example of this. I tried 5 different Telecasters, various price points, and the Red Tele was twice as loud as all of the others, including like a custom shop Now, the Harmony Silhouette Unplugged was the quietest guitar I've ever known. So that, you know, if I was in a shop, right, and I was trying offsets, that probably would have meant I'd have just put it back. I'd have been like, okay, that's not for me. All of this to say, you know, so let's just run down the issue. Oh, I had to look at the nut as well because it was binded up here. So let's sum up all the stuff, right? We had like the painted truss rod, red flag. We had the neck that doesn't fit in the pocket, flag. We had the collapsing bridge, which is not a red flag, that's just a fault. You know, I'd have had to replace that straight off. We had the E string that doesn't stay in the saddle, that's a fault. So I'd have had to do something to increase the brake angle so that it stayed in, or file the nut or something. Oh, and the Bigsby that didn't work. It sounded brilliant, I will say that. When I did have those 10 minutes with the guitar, it was a beautiful sounding guitar, and you know, maybe that's enough for some people. Maybe they just go, oh, you know, I love the colour, it sounds brilliant, I'll just redo all the rest. But for me, for the price, you know, that's not good enough. We get to the end of the week, and I'm I'm part way through Googling how to shim a guitar, and I'm like, I need to call Andertons. I'm gonna call Andertons back and say exactly what's happened, and at least get some feedback. And I did, and I will say again that the chap I spoke to, didn't get his name, was incredibly helpful, and we basically agreed that, you know, what I said wasn't right, and did I want to return it? And then the story gets more interesting. So that is all good. Again, not bagging on Andertons. Their service, sales and return, spot on. It arrived with a QC thing that said, yeah, we've checked all, you know, like all the stuff, neck, electronics, and it's all fine. So that's a question mark in my head. Is it really checked? You could, you know, like, let's benefit of the doubt here. You could say that a lot of these problems are only going to be noticed after you're playing it for a couple of days. And really, what is the responsibility of the retailer as far as like the actual setup of the guitar? I know Andertons advertise that their guitars leave in a playable state. It was playable. So that, you know, file that. You know, could they have QC'd it better initially? Yes, and I know they could have. The reason being is that they had the Burgundy in stock, and I was so desperate to own this guitar. I was like, okay, look, let's exchange. Have you got the Burgundy in stock? We've got one in stock. Brilliant. And the chap was familiar with this, the Fiesta Red guitar. He was like, oh, I remember seeing it on the wall. So he was like, okay, cool. What we'll do is we'll QC. This was all happening in one day as well. I called him in the morning. So again, you cannot argue with that. It's like really quick service. It could have been a nightmare, right? We'll QC it for you, and what we'll do, the Burgundy will be sent out tomorrow, and we'll do a simultaneous collect return. And I'll QC it, and I'll call you later today to let you know how the QC went and if it's cool. So, brilliant. I'm still going to own a Harmony Silhouette. And surely the Burgundy isn't going to have the faults that the Faded Fiesta Red one did. So I'll box up the Faded Fiesta Red, get that ready for return. And at, you know, like before close of play, let's say 4 o'clock, call from Andertons. And the Burgundy, if you can believe this, has failed QC. I should add that I asked him like specifically to get the tech to check all the things that I'd mentioned, so the neck pocket, blah blah blah, on top of their QC, and to like go over that and make sure it was all there. And the Burgundy Harmony Silhouette failed the Andertons QC. So, I mean, that is amazing on a couple of levels. First thing is like, maybe this QC was more stringent Andertons QC was more stringent than the first one they did, for whatever reason, because I'd asked them to check certain things. But either way, right, what does that say about harmony guitars, harmony silhouette guitars specifically? That's I think there's 4 that I can see in UK stores, and 2 of them do not work, are not fit to be sold to the public. That's mental. That is that's shocking to me, actually. And if it was a 300 quid guitar, which is what it felt like at most, then you could almost understand it.
Well, you got the gaping neck hole, the dead frets, even with a ridiculously high action, and the collapsing bridge saddles, which obviously will collapse, and the Bigsby that barely works. So, there it goes. There you go.
So the harmony silhouette in Faded Fiesta Red went back the next day, and I don't own a harmony silhouette anymore. I had it for a week and it felt like a year. And even the guy, bless him, from Andertons, I was like, yeah, I think I bought it last month. He was like, you bought it last week, mate? I was like, wow. Such was the intensity of that week. Just trying to get a 1,000 quid guitar to play. And as I say, the psychology of it, you want it to work, right? You've paid this money out, and you want it to be great, and you also love it. So you kind of think, well, maybe I can help it, maybe I can rescue it. But at some point, you've got to go, this should never have left the factory. And on top of that, both of the guitars that Andertons had in were in that state, or two of the ones that I had the potential of owning were in that state. Should it have left the factory is another thing. I think if your neck pockets, I think on a 1,000 quid guitar, it better be well made, right? So we've got failures at a couple of points in the chain. Many of the things that I mentioned kind of happened with play, with sort of extended play. So that's fair enough. And they were, I've got to say again, that from start to finish, the service, fantastic. Could the first QC have been a little better? Probably, I think, to say there was nothing wrong with it, say, as soon as I got out of the box, there was like a couple of things I was like, ugh, red flags that maybe would have been worth investigating, and they spotted it. They spotted that stuff second time out. But for harmony guitars, this experience, I'll be honest, has put me off going anywhere near that brand again, even though they are beautiful looking guitars, and all reviews online are fantastic. Everywhere, everyone loves their harmony silhouette online. All the Reddits that I've found, all the YouTube videos. So maybe I was really unlucky, and I would love a harmony silhouette that worked, I would totally buy one if I could know that all of that stuff wasn't gonna be there. I think that's it. So thanks very much for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, something a little bit different today. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I would love to know if you have any experience of harmony guitars. Maybe you've had a similar problem. Let me know in the comments, or just in general, what is your thoughts on all this? At what point do we say, okay, that is not good enough when it comes to guitar buying, when it comes to condition of guitars online? How do we make that call? Let me know in the comments. I am fascinated. I hope this has come across in a professional and respectful tone. I'm certainly not doing this in a clickbaity, just bagging for the sake of it on the brands. I just thought I'd share it. I thought it was quite an interesting story. And more than anything, it's to remind me of a guitar that I owned and now don't. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.